I think part of the issue is, like you said, looking across the board. First thing is we are not a two-party, well, not supposed to be a two-party country, right? But what you have is like the everybody's like, well, it's a lesser of two evils, so they don't vote for third party because they're like, oh, you vote for a third party, then that's giving the other one an opportunity to win. So if we continue with that mindset, what will happen is that we will always be voting for the lesser of two evils. I think for me, it was about the cognitive dissonance that was occurring, and I'm gonna say on both ends. But just for me, I noticed a lot more on the those who were more supportive of Trump, and that's just what I noticed. So things like when you're talking about, oh, abortion,
I
uh,
try to be careful with that word. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. Deletion. um, like, but then at the same time, be supportive of the death penalty. If you pro-life, part of me is feeling like if you're pro-life, then be pro-life. You can't just be pro-life before situations, but then after so you're concerned about somebody's life, you're okay with the death penalty or okay with guns when you know that that's like the number one killer for the youth, with self deletion after the fact. So you're not putting things in place to be supportive about pro life all across the board. So that was one thing that for me that I looked at, that made sense in terms of being responsible citizens.
Mhm.
Um, things like and I know people like, oh well, it's different when you're a baby, you're innocent, and that happens versus somebody committed a crime after the fact. But even when you look at the stats for the death penalty, most it impacts black men most in terms of they're the ones that are put on death penalty, but then to only be found out that they are the ones that have been most falsely accused of situations and then get out based on that, based on the different projects that they do. So my thing is just when we're thinking about things across the board, there are some things that I agreed with Trump. I'm not going to be so subjective to say, oh, I don't like him so much on a moral standpoint that I can't see some of the economic things that may um that not made that are good versus Kamala. But then on the other side with Kamala, like I'm with that, how are you going to be in supportive of one thing, but then you have the war that rages on in Israel and not make, say that you're going to end that, so it was just a lot of things that I looked at, and I researched, like, the websites that have all of the policies side by side, so you can kind of get everybody's view on specific things. And to me, it was a toss up, and I at that point I had to vote what I felt was right, and neither one of them was right for me.
Right, and one thing that I can say is that I do respect, some people that's watching, and maybe a few people on the panel may not agree with what you're saying, but I think they can at least respect it because you at least keyword researched, and then you
Mhm.
came to a conclusion. One of the conversations that I was having past couple days was I was asking them, well, if you don't agree with this, and then you don't like him, why didn't you vote for one of the other people on the ballot? Well, I was only focused on those 2. Okay, but you don't agree with that, but so was there an agenda? Did you really are you really that concerned, or were you just pushing her in because she's a woman? Or was there any other reasons as to why? Because if you don't if you're bringing up the Bible and you're bringing up some of the Christian beliefs when it comes to Trump, then why isn't it being applied when you talk about Kamala? And if both of them offset each other again, why didn't you vote for the other people? I don't know who those people are. Well, why didn't you do the research? Like this is like, well, I don't have to apply logic because I know what Trump stands for. Now again, I'm only speaking from a person. I don't care for either one of them, right? And if I really want to make a sound decision, I at least need to do the research and give it a fair vote, and not just off of emotion. Let me get some of the other people. I know Luis wanted to get in there. Let me get the other people, and I'm gonna play this clip.
Yeah. So, so this week has been a rather, emotional roller coaster for a lot of people, especially what it seemed a lot of women have taken this, very personal into heart. And I understand that they had a lot of hopes, whether it was they were rooting for a specific policy or a certain direction, or they were just voting merely to see a woman of color in the most powerful seat in the world. Whatever the rhyme or reason is, vote based on your intentions and the information that was, displayed. But also, one thing that I really saw that was very disheartening this week was that a lot of women blamed this, turn of election on black men. Like can't I can't stress this enough how much I've heard. And I was telling JR at the beginning of the hour, and I've shared it in the back chat about how many messages I received from certain women who were very upset. The results are the results. If you went out there and vote and did your part, your civil duty, right? For me, you should be more focused on the local election, who your mayor, who your solicitors, who are your congress people, statesmen, etc. Those are the people you need to know on an intimate, personal level, because your voice is very important to radiate to them, because you're putting those people into powerful seats, which therefore they would go and advocate for you.
And I'll just chime in real quick too. Yeah, I get
Mine
that
too.
a lot of us were upset and in our emotions, but I think it was more so not because of it was definitely because of the election. But when you look at the numbers, we saw that black men did vote for Kamala. What was it? 80% or something. 80% of black men showed up and voted for Kamala.
82.
82. I think it was more about those conversations happening within different circles where men, black men in particular, were starting to express their disdain for Kamala and why they, didn't care for her. And we were trying to push the point of sticking together as black people, similar to what Mrs. Taken was saying earlier. And it just seemed like black men within certain circles were just not for that. And so I think that is what sparked a lot of the emotions. Um,
But can I ask you a quick question?
mhm.
At 82%, when have
Right.
you ever had black men collectively at 82% all agree or band behind something collectively?
Yeah, no, and that's what I mean.
The
It's
82% of men don't even watch sports. 82% of men don't even work out.
yeah,
82% of the men don't even follow politics. So the mere fact that that high number is more of an achievement and a milestone for this present moment in time, that you're able to get 82% of all black men that
mhm,
went out there,
yeah,
right? That's a much more telling sign than the other 18% who have different views.
yeah. I mean, the numbers don't lie, but you know how popular opinion goes in situations when you're in groups. One person starts saying something, everyone jumps on the bandwagon, and so I think that women were hearing more. More of the dialogue that was geared towards not voting for Kamala in those different circles, which I think sparked a lot of the emotional, uh, outpouring. So I don't know, but the numbers don't lie. So I don't think we're blaming black men. I just think that when certain black men started to let us know how they really feel, it definitely affected us. I mean,
Well,
even in some of these tapings, or you guys had made it very clear why you were not voting for Kamala.
well, I mean, regardless of if I could just land this one point, regardless of what direction some of the other men who didn't vote as part of that 82% train. I'm sure that there were certain things that they were looking for, or certain things that have not happened in the previous administration or current administration that have shown, strides moving forward. And I'm going to speak to the people who, unfortunately, that we all on this panel and maybe other conversations have not brought up. We didn't address the group that has fallen back behind in the last 20 years, and that's young men. Young men in this country have been falling behind the last 20 years. You want to know what swung this election? It's the 18 to 29% of men. The 18 to 29, the 18-year-old to 29-year-old young men are the ones who pushed this election in the direction that it is, right? And also, uh adults 45 to 64 as well. When you look at that, you're talking about young people, and you're also talking about their parents as well. You know, young men are 4 times more likely to off themselves, 3 times more likely to be addicted, 12 more times to likely be incarcerated. Only 1 in 30 are in relationships under 30. 1 of 3 live at home. 1 in 5, you know, 1 in 5 who are 30-year-olds live at home. You know what I'm saying? They're not engaging in work, they're not engaging in relationships, and they're not engaging in school. We have forgotten a very pivotal group of people. All of us are in great positions. We have houses, we have careers, we have money, et cetera, et cetera. We're speaking from a very privileged situation, but unfortunately, we have to understand that there are a group of young people who are coming out into this world, and they're trying to navigate it. Is this best for me? Is that best for me? Why should I vote in this direction? Where does that include me in your vision? She did not do that. She did not highlight where she includes. If you go to their website and you look at who are the people that they serve, I promise you that young men, and particularly young black men, are not part of that game plan. And sort of when you have forgotten an important pivotal base of individuals who are a voting bloc, who do need direction and guardrails, right? And we have simply forgotten about them, right? And their parents see what is happening to them growing up in this culture today, in the direction in which they're going. They see the hurt that they're going through, and they want to change the tide. They might not want to vote red, but they understand that it spoke more to a more masculine frame in which these young men need to have. And unfortunately, the Democrats fumble the ball. That's just the reality of the matter. It's not about who voted, who didn't vote. It's about who did they not address, who did they not take the time to speak in. Instead of bringing a bunch of itches on stage to shake their ass, won't you sit down and talk to mothers who have young boys who they have concerns about their future and what's in it for them? So I'll yield right there.